And for both pigs and poultry, vitamin D plays an essential role in the uptake of calcium and phosphorus. So a deficiency in one can often lead to deficiencies in all three nutrients. And this can create challenges for both bone health and its development.
Welcome to Future Feed Talks. In this episode, we explore the role of vitamin D metabolites in animal health. I'm joined by Dr. Shelby Ramirez, responsible for strategic marketing in poultry, and Dr. Alexandra Desbruslais, leading strategic marketing in swine. Together, they share the latest insights on SciTell DBS technology and explain why measuring 25-hydroxy-D3 is a crucial step in supporting the health and performance of poultry and swine. This series is produced in cooperation with dsm-firmenich and All About Feed. My name is Iris Hoffman, video editor, and I'll be conducting this interview. Well, hello Shelby and Alexandra. It's a pleasure to do this interview with you.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks, Iris.
Likewise, happy to be here.
So could you paint me a picture first? What is 25-hydroxy-D3 and how is it related to SciTell DBS?
Great question, and I'm going to start first with vitamin D3. So vitamin D is an essential nutrient for both livestock and poultry. And just like humans, pigs and poultry can synthesize vitamin D3 in the skin when they're exposed to sunlight. And they can also get this from the diet as well. And because modern production practices, pigs and poultry are primarily getting vitamin D3 from the diet. So vitamin D must first go through the liver in order to be converted to the primary circulating form of 25-hydroxycholecalciferol. So 25-hydroxy-D3 is really the short name that we're giving it. And then this form must go through the kidneys in order to become the active hormonal form, which is 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol, which is also known as calcitriol. So a lot of different names here, but just wanted to go through how vitamin D3 eventually becomes the hormonal form, and 25-hydroxy-D3 is really the primary circulating form. And it's important to know that different sources and different options are out there for vitamin D3, especially going through dietary sources. And when choosing a dietary source, it's important to consider purity, safety, and reliability. If the 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol is applied directly via the feed, this is the hormonal form, so this is something to consider in terms of acceptable thresholds in the blood. And we at dsm-firmenich have a novel source of 25-hydroxy-D3, which is unlike traditional sources of vitamin D because it's that main circulating form, and that facilitates a more efficient uptake of the vitamin. And we know vitamin D status is intrinsically linked to health, productivity, and welfare, which led us to investigate different ways to measure and monitor vitamin D status. And I'll let Alex kind of answer on the SciTell DBS and what that means.
So SciTell DBS is a service that we provide at dsm-firmenich where we can accurately measure the animal's blood levels of 25-hydroxy-D3. And although this measurement is not necessarily novel, the approach that we take provides a fast, convenient collection method and meaningful interpreted results. Traditional blood collection methodology generally requires centrifugation, refrigeration, and often expensive shipping logistics. And to prevent these issues, we've implemented the dried blood spot methodology, shortened to DBS. And this method allows us to simply make a small pinprick in the pig's ear or the bird's wing vein and apply that spot of blood to a collection card. Once the blood spot is dry, these cards can then be posted anywhere to one of our network of laboratories without any need for expedited or refrigerated shipping. And then the interpreted results come with recommendations based on literature and our own internal database of over 10,000 birds and pigs.
Great, thank you for clarifying that. So what is new about recommendations for 25-hydroxy-D3?
So we're the first to develop recommendations based on 25-hydroxy-D3 for swine and poultry. In swine, the circulating levels of 25-hydroxy-D3 impact numerous health, productive and welfare parameters. For example, in piglets, optimal vitamin D levels are required for immune function. Piglets rely on vitamin D3 transfer from the sow via the milk and the colostrum, but this process is not particularly efficient, and if the sow is at all deficient in vitamin D3, her longevity will be compromised. And in the piglets, it will also negatively then impact the immune status of the piglets. When mammals are born, they have immature immune functionality with immune systems, and they rely on passive immunity from the mother. As such, they're far more vulnerable to diseases. If they then lack the levels of vitamin D3 required for the immune function, they are again even more unlikely to be able to fight off disease. Likewise, in sows, we have a global problem with poor sow longevity, and many sows are having to be culled out due to lameness, which, as well as having an obvious negative impact on the welfare of the sow, also has a huge effect on production profitability. So often this has some vitamin D3 causality that can be easily mitigated with monitoring and efficient supplementation.
So do you have anything to add, Shelby?
So similarly, 25-hydroxy-D3 in poultry is critical for immune development. But unlike pigs, they're totally reliant on the feed or sunlight sources for vitamin D3. And for both pigs and poultry, vitamin D plays an essential role in the uptake of calcium and phosphorus. So a deficiency in one can often lead to deficiencies in all three nutrients. And this can create challenges for both bone health and its development. So rickets and lameness, these can be challenges that you see in the field. And given that the skeleton is the scaffold for muscle development, there can also be reductions in carcass yields when we see low 25-hydroxy-D3. Additionally, for layers and breeders, eggshell quality can become an issue, and in breeders we see fertility and hatchability issues. So what we're doing with the service is actually looking at the levels of 25-hydroxy-D3 and what they might be related to in terms of these different challenges that we're seeing in the field related to vitamin D3 status.
So Alexandra, can you tell me about the SciTell DBS survey? What was most meaningful?
So we started this service by conducting a survey for broilers, fatteners and gilts to understand if there were any differences in age, genetics, geographical distribution and dietary levels of vitamin D3 and 25-hydroxy-D3. For gilts, we sampled over 300 gilts from 14 different countries and found that only 20% of those gilts were within the normal range to support reproductive performance and immune competency. For fatteners, we sampled over 800 from 12 different countries and found that only 1% of those sampled were actually within the range to support optimal muscle growth and immune competency, which goes a long way to explain why we're seeing increased culling due to lameness and other issues.
So for broilers, we've sampled over 1,300 broilers from over 17 countries and found that only 13% of those were in the range to support optimal muscle growth and immune competency. And I will note that about 48% of those samples came from birds that did not have dietary 25-hydroxy-D3 provided in the diet throughout the production cycle. So typically we're seeing 25-hydroxy-D3 only included for the first 14 or 21 days of life, yet when we sample those same birds at 35 days of age, we're often seeing levels below optimum level. So it's important to include 25-hydroxy-D3 throughout the whole production cycle in order to see the maximum benefit.
So please enlighten me, what is the next for SciTell DBS?
So we're very excited. In poultry, we're developing the recommendations for layers and breeders currently, and we're going to be starting that survey actually in early 2026.
We're currently also doing a survey of blood 25-hydroxy-D3 in piglets and nursery pigs, and we expect to have these subspecies to be added to our SciTell DBS database and obviously the service in 2026 as well.
So big things are coming for 2026 and you should stay tuned.